So I am so very grateful to welcome you here to this space today with us, to this circle. My name is Betsy, and I have the privilege of being the director of the Jeannette Rankin Peace Center. Since its inception, the Peace Center has been a place for people to come and dialogue and reflect on what's possible and what's real, and how do we make sense of all that together, right? So I thank you all for being here today with us to continue that conversation. For some, peace is very personal, spiritual even. For others, it is based on action. So the way, the practices, and the way that we live and practice peace. And that is exactly the beauty of peace. As the Peace Center, JRPC, has been exploring it for 32 years, because peace is very personal and very intimate to all of us, inside of us. But at the very same time, it is bigger than all of us, right? And so you could say it is as big as an elephant, right? Maybe. So just as it's difficult to describe an elephant by looking at just one piece, there is no real one way to define peace. And likewise, there's no real way to make peace. No way to get there, no one way. We are all examples and expressions of the many, many ways that we define and practice peace. So today we will explore together why it is that the world looks different to all of us, and how we each see the elephant. In thinking about today, I ran across and I offer a quote from Anais Nin. We don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. We don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. Today's theme comes from the parable of the blind men who each were convinced they knew what an elephant was and looked like because of the particular peace that they felt. One stood on the side and said, "It's a wall." One felt the ear and said, "No, it's a fan." A third ran into the tusk and said, "It's got to be a spear." And another stood in front of the leg and said, "It's a tree. I know it's a tree." Still another blind man stood and felt the trunk and said, "It's a snake." And finally, one felt the tail and said, "It's a rope." There is an elephant in the room. We sometimes don't see things around us for many reasons. And so part of today is to practice seeing, to discover how we each see or not see, and most importantly, to help each other to see more fully. Each blind man had a part of the truth, but each one missed the bigger picture, the bigger perspective. We don't see things the way they are. We see things the way we are. So whether we're looking at our complicated world with all its problems, or looking at the way we each define something as big as peace, we, like the blind men, see the answers from our own perspective. And that is only part of the picture. You will notice in our centerpiece there are several items that suggest seeing and not seeing, glasses and blindfolds. Knowing there is an elephant in the room and learning from the parable of the blind men, let us today be driven to open our minds, to be willing to look at our own blindness and take the opportunities to see a different perspective and to more fully come to know the elephants in the room. So we all know that music touches our soul and our hearts in ways that very few other things can. And so we would like to start today with the gift of music offered to us from Beth Youngblood and the Missoula Women's Chorus, Montana Women's Chorus, Missoula chapter.
Yeah, well, it's a mouthful, isn't it?
It is. And I know you're going to give us a heartful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so we're going to sing a medley for you today, and I imagine that you may recognize the second half of this medley. And so if you do and you feel like joining us, I think never suppress the urge to sing, right?
Whoa, yeah, yeah. Whoa, yeah, yeah. Whoa, yeah, yeah. Whoa, yeah, yeah. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going. But we know within. Whoa, yeah, yeah. And we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. But we know we will. It will be hard
so much. A great way to start our day, to thinking and being inspired and opening our hearts and our minds. So thank you to all of you. Some of them will be staying with us and others to move on. We will never again be in a circle quite like this. So I invite you to take a look around at the opportunities that you have today to learn and grow and see some different perspectives. We'll be part of many other circles, but none of them will be quite like this one ever again. So today, I know that several of you have been to an Unconference before, and some of you have not. And pretty soon you will be answering all your questions about what to expect and what it's going to be like. All of that will unfold shortly. I encourage you today to take notes, to participate fully, to ask questions, because that's how we learn and grow together. That's how we see a bigger, fuller picture of the elephant together. And we help each other to see more fully. I have to warn you that some of today will stay with you. And it will change you. We're going to ask, as you're taking notes in your sessions today, to give us 2 words that describe the conversation. 2 words that tell a little bit about what you have done in that hour's session as you're taking notes. And we're going to prepare a visual as the day goes on, sometime around lunch, to sort of make that big picture, make that big elephant picture of all of the different things that we're talking about and learning together to come to life. And you're each welcome to add to that over there as the day goes on. So into this circle, I would also like to offer the names of the businesses that have gifted us with donations that will feed and support us through the day as we are in conversation together. First, the United Congregational Church for the space today, Homestead Organics, Orange Street Food Farm, Bagels on Broadway, you probably already sampled those, Great Harvest and La Petite Outre, Pam Walzer and the Tilted Halo gluten-free baked goods. I think those are hidden till later. Back to the Mother Kombucha, the Olive Branch, Cornutopia, Lake Missoula Tea, and the Missoula Independent. So I ask you to thank these very generous businesses with your business at some point in some way to let them know that you appreciate their making today possible. So we have now invited 3 folks, Julie Cajune, Udo Fluck, and Janice Springer, to further ignite our passions and our inspirations and our hearts and minds to see beyond ourselves and think about the possibilities today. And after they each speak for a little bit, Chris Baer is going to come up and explain the whole process of open space and what you can expect today and all of the things that you need to know to make our time together today valuable, rewarding, and worthwhile. So again, thank you all so much for being part of this most unique and wonderful circle. And I'm going to turn it over to Julie right now.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. What's in your heart? It's our traditional greeting. Who is America? She is a landscape that wasn't discovered because every place was already loved. Who is America? She's a story of Genesis, not a migration across a land bridge. The immigrants came much later. Who is America? She's hundreds of nations thriving from time immemorial until the ships appeared upon the horizon. Who is America? She is a yearning that longs to be the fiction they wrote of the people, for the people, by the people. Who is America? She is a fugitive moment of compassion that embraced the words, "I have a dream." Who is America? She is 658 nightmares of 658 children taken from their parents during May 6th to May 19th, 2018. Who is America? She's a miracle that made beauty from sorrow and suffering, that broke bones and tore skin. Beauty that we call blues and jazz and overcome. Who is America? She is threadbare and anemic, discarding lost threads, the fabric of her memory and life. Who is America? She is a dream deferred, a word not yet spoken, a thought never realized. Who is America? She is a fate poised on the edge of a razor blade, a destiny waiting on a faith that is more powerful than fear. Who is America? She is an anger and a blame and a finger pointing at the other. Who is America? She is apathy and opulence. Who cares? Let them eat cake. Who is America? She is a child of possibility, our child, raised in some way by each one of us. Who is America? She is always becoming. What shall we make of her? A truth bearer? A wound healer? A bridge builder? A justice lover? A peacemaker? A light bearer? A dream weaver? Who is America? She is a historic calling right here at this point in this place that we call Montana. The state of Montana recognizes a distinct and unique cultural heritage of American Indians and is dedicated in its educational goals to the preservation of their cultural integrity. A historic calling in this place, here, now. Do you hear it? Have you heard it? Do you know it? Will we give a courageous answer? Will we give a courageous answer as if the world depended on the gift that you have to give? Who is America?
it's a tough act to follow, I have to say. Wow. Thank you. I was listening to you, and several things you mentioned are close to my heart, and probably I should tell you a little bit about who I am and what I do. My name is Udo Fluck, and I'm an intercultural researcher. I look at cultures and what makes them unique. I look for cultural similarities, and I sometimes find cultural differences, but I try to understand why oftentimes culture or cultural uniquenesses are the elephant in the room, and why people know them, that they exist, but they don't like to address them or talk about them. And over the years, I found that the only explanation really there is for that, and why a lot of people prefer to ignore, is fear. It's the fear of the other, and the fear of the unknown, and the fear that perhaps the other could be better and could have something to contribute that might be better than our own ways of doing things. And so I dedicated my life to find out more about that, and to offer educational opportunities for students at the university, but also for community members to sort of explore this and to overcome that fear, and to really sort of understand what Betsy said earlier, that we like to look at things the way we like to see them, because it's most comfortable to do that. Then you don't have to be afraid, you don't have to change, because it's exactly the way you want it. But in reality, of course, that is far from the truth, and it isn't, not everything is the way we want to have it. And I think therein lies a great opportunity to explore and to discover a way other than our own, and to really sort of understand and appreciate. And I'd like to always, when a student asks me, so where do I start, and where do I sort of hope to complete this journey of intercultural understanding, I always say, well, it's pretty simple. You start out being, to some degree, ethnocentric, and sometimes students say, oh, that's a bad word. Well, it really isn't, because if you think about it, everybody is ethnocentric. It would be sad if you weren't, because then your parents would have not done a good job to give you cultural pride and heritage. So your parents or grandparents or guardians or your family members raise you and give you sort of this pride and say, be proud to be an American, be proud to be Chinese. In my case, I was born and raised in Germany. They said, be proud to be German. And so you grow up being proud of where you come from. And I think that's a good thing. The only problem is if it's never challenged by any other thought on the outside, you might think that your cultural background is the better one, is the best, and perhaps everybody else should sort of see things the same way you see them. And so I think it's a fairly simple process to have an open mind and to become aware of other things. And as you do, as you become aware, you begin to understand. And as you understand, you begin to appreciate. Something that was 2 steps earlier not possible, because if you're truly ethnocentric, you can't understand, and you certainly can't appreciate anything that is different from your own sort of view. So when you go down this path and you become aware and you understand and you appreciate, then you develop sort of a different way of looking at things. And you might see a lot of value in another person's culture, tradition, customs, whatever it is that makes us unique. And as you do that, you sort of connect that to your own. And then sometimes students say, but I don't want to give up my own culture. And I always tell them it's not about giving anything up, it's about adding to it. It's about becoming multicultural or intercultural. And that's really what we're striving for. It's not about trading something off or giving something up. It's about adding to it. And it's about adding to your own views, to your own ways of dealing with things, and probably even solving problems. And so I think that's where I connect to you and your keynote, to what Betsy said, and how I sort of, well, see the elephant as not something that's big and scary and that you should fear, but as something that is actually something quite wonderful and beautiful if you get to know the elephant. And so that's what I hope to get out of this, is to get to know the elephant. Thank you.
Once riding in old Baltimore, heart filled, head filled with glee, I saw a Baltimorean keep looking straight at me. Now I was 8 and very small, and he was no whit bigger. I smiled. He stuck out his tongue and called me nigger. I saw the whole Baltimore from May until December. Of all the things that happened there, that's all that I remember. This poem is Incident by County Cullen, and it tells us what happens, what can happen when we fail to respect the different ways of seeing the elephant. We see the same world from different perspectives, and sometimes another's perspective is offensive to us, or we consider it dangerous. So how do we live with those whose perspectives challenge us? How do we live with those perspectives and the people who hold them? I have written a book which is due to be released in the next few weeks, and it addresses that question. How do we live peacefully with the people whose ideas violate everything that we stand for? How do we stay in community with the people who drive us crazy? The title of my book is, I Know We're All Welcome at the Table, but do I have to sit next to you? The book is based on a little prayer. It could be a prayer, it could be an intention, it could be a mantra, and it goes like this. Bless them, change me. Bless them, change me. Now, of course, that sounds cool, doesn't it? It sounds kind of enlightened. But of course, you know what I really pray. You know what I really pray, right? Bless me, change them. The one, bless them, change me, sounds really impressive, and everybody will say, wow, she's really great. Bless them. Bless me, change them is telling the truth about my life. So how do we honor and respect and live peacefully with those who see another part of the elephant? That's the bless them part. And how do we accept that our view, no matter how precious it is to us, is not the whole view, it's not the whole truth. That's the change me part. I'm going to name several things that can help us. Of course, there's millions of things. I'll just lift up a couple for you to ponder. One thing we can do to learn to live that way is to gather with others as we're doing today, because the work is hard and we can't do it if we're alone. I'm going to host one of our discussion groups later, and we're going to talk about some of the ways we welcome people we don't really want to welcome. And one of the things we'll lift up in that group is, how do we diminish other people? How do we diminish other people, and what could we do instead? And in that same discussion, we're going to talk about how do we cherish another's story? And why did I choose the word cherish instead of just say respect or tolerate? And how do we cherish something that we passionately oppose? Then there's other things that we can do. We can learn to do really crazy things, like being willing to feel a little bit of our enemy's pain. We can be willing to be vulnerable, because if we're full of defenses, there's no room for listening. If we're full of defenses, there's no room for compassion. And here's a question for us. And we'd come down on all different places in this question. It's a very challenging question. Is it possible to work earnestly for peace and justice and not feel that we have to change someone who has a different opinion? These are some of the things that we can do as we make our way towards bless them, change me. There are many other things we'll be talking about them throughout the day, and it will be important that we share our ideas with each other, because when we are in community, we can call forth the strong in one another. Thank you.
I think we need a transition, though. It feels too stark to just go into open space. So take a breath and take in all those wonderful thoughts and ideas and epiphanies or joys or concerns that came up for you. Is there anxiety? Is there joy? Hopefulness, maybe? A sense of presence, a sense of we're in this together, a sense of work that we need to do. Just feel that. Now look across the room and look around and see all the beautiful people that are here with us and that are going to participate with us today and join in whatever it is we create. Some of you know what open space is all about, and some of you don't. Maybe there's anxiety around the fact that there's an empty wall right there, and that's our agenda. But as the day goes on, in a little bit, we're going to create that agenda together based on what you're passionate about, based on what's coming up for you, based on what you love and you want to have a conversation about. Maybe it's a project. Maybe it's a question you have. And maybe you have the answers and maybe you don't. But I'm guessing that all of us have something to offer and something that we gain by being here. You'll never see the same people in the same room like this. And so this is a unique space, a unique place for us to do some work together. So I'm excited. I think this is a beautiful experience. Just to tell you a little bit about open space, Harrison Owen started this in 1985. And the reason why he started this was because he used to organize conferences and conventions, conferences, I believe. And when he did the evaluation forms at the end, he discovered that the best thing about these conferences were the coffee breaks. And so after months and months of preparation, to have the coffee breaks be the best part of a conference is kind of unique. And so he sought out to create an experience where we have multiple coffee breaks. And so each one of those sessions that we have 5 sessions going down the left side today. Those are like coffee breaks that we get to create. And why do coffee breaks matter? Because we get to have the conversations that are important to us. And we don't have to stand there and listen to something that doesn't matter to me. I can get up and leave. I can go to a different session and have a different coffee break with different people where I have something to contribute and where something contributes to me and each one of you. So that's a little bit about open space. Back to the theme of the elephant, another part of the parable that's in some of the versions is that those 5 blind men or 6 blind men that found different parts and described it differently, the other one thought that the one describing something different was dishonest and wasn't being honest about what an elephant is really about. And so then there were battles and fights and arguments about who was right and who was wrong. But when we look at that parable, who was right? Who was wrong? We need all those parts. We need all perspectives. And being willing to listen to those and honor those and respect those and cherish those can be difficult. So how do we do that? One of the ways we're going to create that agenda is shortly you'll come up and write something on a piece of paper that's passionate to you, a question, a project, a discussion you want to have. So think about what is that? What's that passion that you want to bring? There are 5 principles that govern or that speak to open space. So think of a phone conversation that you have. You call somebody you want to talk to or you need to talk to. So whoever shows up are the right people. These people in this room are the right people. And whatever happens in that phone conversation, whatever happens here, is the only thing that could happen based on that group of people, that person you're talking to. So today, whatever happens is up to us, based on the people in this room. Wherever it starts, whenever it starts, is the right time. When it's over, and you know that in a conversation with people or on the phone. When you're done having that conversation, it's over. And so to continue that, there's not really a point. We're wasting each other's time. So it's okay if something's done early or if something goes over. When it's over, it's over. If it's not over, be respectful to the next group that comes into your space, but you can move your group to somewhere else. And there are plenty of spaces outside today. It's a beautiful day outside today. So feel free to move your meeting outside. One of the rooms is outside, it's room C, but you can do what you need to do today. This is your day. And wherever it happens, it happens. That's just the way it is. Think of a coffee break. It could be anywhere. Or a phone conversation, or a conversation with friends. It can be anywhere. So that's what open space is about. This is your space. This is your time to create an agenda that you're happy with, that you want. The law of mobility is another part of open space. That means you have the ability to move to a different space. If you're not contributing to that particular conversation, or if you're not being contributed to, you can get up and leave. This isn't school. You don't have to stick in your seat and be quiet. You can get up and go. And there are two creatures that show up in that, a butterfly and a bumblebee. And a bumblebee flits from place to place and pollinates different spaces. So it's okay to move. And the butterfly sometimes may not even go to any space and just flit around and be beautiful. And that's okay too. This is your day, this is your space. And another part of this is be prepared to be surprised. None of us know what's going to come out of today. We can't know that. We get to create that. It emerges if we pay attention. And that's it. So I encourage you to trust and to open to the process. And Betsy said earlier about the notes and proceedings. So you can host a session, or you can just participate. If you host a session, make sure somebody takes notes and bring those notes to that table right over there. And we are creating a word cloud. Part of those notes is that at the end of your session, you'll each come up, well, on the note sheet, you'll put 2 words on there that were strong, that came up in that session, and then they'll go onto a word cloud. And we'll project that on the wall in a little while. Okay. So pause again and think of what you're passionate about. When you host a session, you're bringing forth something that's important to you, something that's important to all of us, or to some of us, something you're passionate about, that you're willing to hold a session for. And in a minute, I'll ask you to come up and write that on a piece of paper. And then take the microphone and share that idea, that question to the group, so that we all know what that is, and then post it on that grid over here during the session you want and the place you want. And make sure you put your name on it so that we know who's doing that session. Thank you, Harold. Sometimes I forget things. Harold facilitated the first one of these and did a fabulous job, and we're thrilled to have him here. He's a perfect mentor for me. I really appreciate that. So you'll grab a piece of paper, take the microphone, and present what that is that you're going to host. You can host more than one session. Just make sure it's at a different time. So, because you can't really be at the same place at the same time. Right, you never know. And make sure you put your name on it. So when you get the microphone, tell us your name and just 1 or 2 brief sentences about what your session's about. It's not an opportunity to share for 10 minutes. Just a couple brief comments about what your session's about.
Okay. Maybe, do you want to just quickly tell where the different places are so people will know which one they'd like to use?
So there's a map on the wall, but also if you see that letter over here behind Bob, it says A, that's space A. Space B is over here. There's a big B by that lady in the red. Space C is down the stairs and out the door. It's outside. And then D, E, and F are all the way down past the bathrooms and around. There's some classrooms back there. We can always add a new session. If there are more sessions, you can take it outside or somewhere else, wherever. Wherever it happens is wherever it happens. Okay, then when we're done with the grid, I've got one more thing. So after we fill that grid, make sure that you come back to your seat. I've got one more set of instructions and then we'll be on the way. Okay, so right now we're just going to fill the grid with what you're passionate about. Again, write it down. Take the microphone and tell us what it is. So we need a sense of quiet and connecting with what you're passionate about so we can hear what people are announcing and make sure your name's on the piece of paper.
I'm passionate about something that's very similar to other people's passions. Do you?
So that's okay if we overlap, and that'll get dealt with. That'll be that next set of instructions. So, one more question, that's it.
You don't have to do that.
Right.
If you don't want to. If you just want to participate, you don't have to be one who starts a session. But of course, if you do, you've got plenty of opportunities.
Right. Okay, so once again, so be quiet so we can hear each other's presentation, topic, and then come back to your seat. We'll do one more short thing and then we'll get started. And that short thing has to do with any overlapping, any renegotiation. But I want to say one thing about that before we go on. So, okay, this space is open.
People are making their own. Yeah, if you would like to lead a session. What we'll have to do is see what's set up. And then nobody's telling them is 0 and 1.
So I've been thinking. So I've been thinking a lot about spaces, and what we talked about so far this morning is a lot about the me space, like how do I change, what do I do, and then there's of course there's the you space, and that's the other part of the elephant. And I've also been really curious recently about the outer space, like what's the space in between me and you, and which is different. And then I've also been thinking, well, if you take that a step further, what's the we space that is bigger than all of us? So that's what I want to explore. It's all totally an experiment, so I'm going to wait.
I would like to have people think about cultural sensitivity and how to develop it, how to go about it, how to see how we can appreciate other cultures more and how we can be sensitive to other cultural values and traditions and customs. Anybody interested in that? What's next?
I'd like to discuss something I'll titled Loving Speech and Deep Listening. And the loving speech would be being responsible for clinging on to values and how heated emotion can arise from that, and the deep listening part as well is trying to listen to the other person's perspective and where they might be coming from. The big inspiration, and I have this morning, is the influence that we see that's really impressive with role models, leaders, and certainly some of the media channels that you see the sponsor, whoever's the angriest and loudest is the winner of the argument, if you will, and try not to have this, I guess, outrageous viciousness and dialogue, and that's what I have to offer.
I'm Lisa. I have a project that I'm working on with the University of Montana, and I wanted a chance to share it. It has to do with the things that we purchase and get involved in have a big impact on the world. And I work on tea and those impoverished communities that grow the tea in India. And I work on, it started as an elephant conservation project. And I have a bit to share, but I also wanted to, Missoula was the first to take this on and connect with these communities in India, and I wanted to share about it and invite other people to get more involved, because it's become multi-layered, and a lot has to do with coexistence of different cultures and how we impact the rest of the world.
So after you've shared, post your topic up on the board. There's some little sticky tabs over there, so pick a space and a time and put your conversation up on the board, because that's our agenda.
At the risk of being, my name's Steve, and at the risk of being that frenzied activist, I'm passionate about renewable energy and moving us away from carbon-based fuels because of the impact it's having on our planet. And there's an initiative called 184, and so what I'm passionate about today is to see if I can gather another 5 or 6 people who would like to take clipboards, which I have, and gather signatures between now and June the 21st, which is the deadline. The goal is 25,000 signatures to move to 80% renewable by 2050. It's called Just Transition, and I have materials about it, but I'd be glad to try to inspire some of the rest of us to do the impossible, which is to move Montana to renewable energy. So, cool.
I'm Janice, and again, I'd like to talk and share ideas about how do we welcome those we really don't want to welcome. How do we stay in community with people who see the elephant differently? And we're going to especially focus on 2 ways to look at that. How do we diminish other people, and what can we do instead? And how do we cherish another's story, and why would we want to?
My name is also Lisa, and I'd like to talk about peace and saving the planet is connected to what and who you eat.
Hi, I'm Haley, and I want to talk about the idea that peace has no party, and what resources and skills are needed to live that way, and just have a conversation about like what are the core principles of living peacefully, and how can we support others in doing that.
Good morning, my name's AJ, and for some years now I've been passionate about addressing racism in our society. And so how do we heal as a society from the effects of racism that has been with us for 400 and some years? And I'm a little bit thinking, well, maybe I want to go to some other person's group. So I've been iffy about whether I want to offer this, but it's something I'm really passionate about.
On your session.
I'm Ethel, and I too am reluctant to say I want to head up something because I see all these others that I want to go to. So I may put this up and then take it down if there's no place. But I can see. But we do have, 4 sessions, 5 opportunities. So what I'm interested in is looking at our fears, especially other people's fears, trying to see what exactly do we fear. I have family members who were so afraid of Obama, and that was the fear. So to me, that was just incredible. Now, they probably don't understand my fear. So I'd like to look at what part of this elephant is our real fear. What is driving us? So, but I may put it up and take it back down. So I'll just put our fears, or what part do I fear?
Put your name on it.
And I will.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Jane. I have to leave early today, so I might try and leave the lunchtime one, but I just retired from teaching yesterday, and some of the things that I worked with my children, my students, are so important to me. I'm working with ideas of compassion and being open-minded and being principled. And so it's easy to do that when I'm a teacher because I can do that. So I guess maybe having dialogue with people on how I can maybe carry that on, even though I won't be directly working with kids, how we can still do that in maybe a teaching, as a teacher. So if you're interested in that, I'll be there at lunch.
Okay, so for now it seems like that's what we have created. So as the day goes on, we can always add more. If you think of another conversation that you want to have, or something that's different, you can always add that to the grid. Right now, And so I encourage you to come back and look after each session, because something may have changed, something may have moved or been added. The other announcement that I want to give is that when we're done with all these sessions at 4:30, we'll come back to a closing circle. So I would ask you, encourage you, invite you to come back to a closing circle, because that really solidifies things in my mind about what happened during the day. So I hope you'll stay and join us. So right now, your opportunity is to maybe rearrange a little bit, maybe combine those conversations, maybe add a new one, whatever you need to do to make this work for you. This is your agenda. The only thing I ask is that you ask permission. Don't change something that's not yours. Ask that person, that's why we put your names on there. Ask that person if you want to combine a session. Ask that person before you ask them to rearrange it. Okay? What time do we have?
10:10.
10:10, so we're really early. Just start the first session early? Okay, so you have about 10-15 minutes to reorganize if need be on the sessions, combine, add, whatever needs to happen, and then maybe grab a cup of coffee and head for your first session.
Which will start at when? 10:30?
Let's say 10:30.
How long are these sessions?
So the first one is going to be about an hour and a half. It looks like from 10, or should we rearrange the session?
Well, I was going to suggest that we perhaps rearrange the time slots so that we have a little bit longer for lunch and can just maybe sit and converse and eat together at lunch instead of actually rushing through 30 minutes to get our lunch and go to a session. So 10:30 to 11:30, and then 11:30 to 12:30 to be lunch. Will that be okay with the kitchen crew?
Got it.
And then 12:30 to 1:30, 1:30 to 2:30, 2:30 to 3:30. Does that sound? Okay.
Could I add one topic?
Absolutely.
Sorry about that. My name is Linda, and I really want to talk with some of you about immigration and refugee status. So concerned about what we're doing in this country with refugees coming over the border, usually from Mexico, and what's happening with the children. And I am not an expert, and it's not a topic that I'm well versed in. And I would really like to just talk about what can we do? What can we do? This is not okay. So, thank you.
Okay.
I'd like to talk a little bit about privilege and where we come from. I know I come from huge privilege, privilege and the disadvantaged classes, if you want to call it that. I hate to use that term because that's not. It sort of implies, just by using the term, we say something about those groups. In my own life, I'm having to deal with privilege because some people close to me don't have the same privileges and are in classes that are being marginalized in some ways. And so coming from where I come from, sometimes it's hard for me to figure out how best to advocate, how best to be, and maybe not advocate, maybe just be supportive, how best to talk about it with people who don't get privilege, that they have privilege. Yeah, so that would be mine. Thanks. I'm Sue, by the way.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
Do you mean privilege based on skin color or privilege based economically or all of it?
The whole order. So in my perspective, I'm privileged because I grew up in a middle class family, upper middle class probably. I'm white. I did not really have to interact in the school system that I was in. I did not have to interact with people of color at all. Kind of a closed view. It was here in Montana, by the way, but in Montana, schools were very segregated when I was in school. And it was largely by community, but, and the opinions that grew up in a largely white school about Native community, we just didn't even think about it. There were so many things that were said that you didn't really think about. I also think a privilege that a lot of us don't think about, and I know there are people in my family who don't realize it, it has to do with being, oh, this is gonna sound terrible. It's being educated. That's a good term. Right, I had all the advantages in terms of education. So those are all the privileges that I see, and I think there's a lot of people who don't get that they fall way up high in the privilege category because they don't think about all those different pieces.
So again, this is your opportunity to go add something, go renegotiate something on the wall, and then pick the session that you want to go to shortly.